Hello everybody, Howard here with MakerDaddy.com again, and today we're going to go into a little bit deeper into our programming. Okay, our last lesson we looked at blinking 3 LEDs. We run the first one 3 times, the second one twice, and then the third one 5 times, each with different delays on and off. And you see the code here. This is from lesson number 2, and it works, but the code itself is not very efficient. Right? We see we have a lot of repetitive code here. We have just copy and paste. And as a developer, we know that when we have this code, we have an opportunity to make it more efficient. Okay, so we have a lot of lines of code to accomplish what we wanted. It's not very flexible, right? If I want to make this one run 5 times, then that means I need to copy this and paste it 2 more times, run it again, make sure it's good. If I want this one to be 2 times instead of 5, and I need to go back in and delete some lines. That's not very efficient. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some new code. Now this code, much smaller, does exactly the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got here. So this piece is exactly the same. We still have our global variables that determine our pin numbers. We still have setup. We're setting pin mode for each of these each of these pins to output. So that's not changed at all. Now we get into our loop function. This is where we have our changes. So instead of calling digital write and delay right here in our loop, we're calling blink LED. Now this is not an Arduino function. This is something that we wrote ourselves. So let's go take a look at that. Blink LED, this is a new function, and when we declare a function, we need to declare a return type. So if I was doing something like, let's do this. Let's calculate area. This is going to be for a rectangle. We're going to have width and height. We'll return width times height. See, it's very simple. What we're going to do is we're taking 2 parameters of ints. We're saying width times height is the area of that rectangle, and we're going to return. This is key right here, return an int. And that's going to be the value that's being returned. So if we wanted to, we could call this from different places in our code and get back the same value without having to continually do this. Okay, so we're not going to be doing that, but for our code, the blink LED function does not need to return anything. I'm not using the return here, so I can just say void. This means we're not returning anything. Okay, so now within the parameters here, we see we have an int times the blink. We're going to use this to tell us how many times we want the light to turn on and off, just like we did before. 3 times, we would pass that in here, times the blink would be 3. Our pin, delay on, and delay off. So for pins, just like we did before, the digital pin we're going to be operating. So the pin will determine which LED we're turning on and off. Delay on here tells us how long we want to leave that on high. We want to leave that light on. Delay off tells us how long we want to leave that off. So these numbers can vary. Okay. So what makes this work, though, is the fact that we have this code. This code we saw before. The digital write on and off is within a for loop. Now, a for loop is used when you want to run a piece of code over and over again for a number of times. Now, if you see up here, remember we have the loop function that's from Arduino. It's right out of the box, and it runs over and over again forever, like it says here in the comments. Well, we don't want that. If we only want it to run 3 times, we want to limit that. So the for loop helps us to do that. So within the for loop here, we'll see we have 3 different pieces. See this, the semicolon here? So this is a section, this is a section, and then this is a section. The first piece is an int. We say int counter equals 0. Now there's many different ways you can do this. This is one of the most common ways I'm showing right now. So we're setting a counter. This could have been called index or x or I or whatever we want to. I just want to make it meaningful, just like I did with my method name, my function name here. So counter equals 0. The first time we run through this, counter is going to be equal to 0. We're setting that up right now. Now this piece tells me how many times, or what are my conditions for running the code. So right now we're saying counter, which is 0, needs to be less than times to blink. So if I pass in 3 as my times to blink, as long as counter is less than 3, as long as the counter is less than 3, we want to run this code. Now, another piece here, and this is key, we're calling counter plus plus. All that does is increment this by 1. So it adds 1 to whatever the value is in counter. So the first time we run through this code, counter is equal to 0. 0 is less than 3, so we want to run the code. And then when this runs, we're going to increase counter by 1. Okay, so next time we come back into the loop, counter is equal to 1. 1 is still less than 3, so we run the code. We do it again, counter is 2. Now 2 is still less than 3, so we run the code. However, the next time this gets incremented, counter is now equal to 3. So 3 is no longer less than 3, so we do not run it. So that means we have run this 0, 1, 2, count them out, that's 3 times. We pass in 3, we get 3. If I wanted to, I could have made this 1, and I could have said this is less than or equal to the number of times to blink. It'd be exactly the same thing. We'd start with 1, then go to 2, then 3, and then because the next time it goes up and gets incremented to 4, 4 is no longer less than or equal to times to blink, which is 3, so the code would stop. Okay, I'm going to put that back. Okay, so again, we pass in some parameters. We want to run through our loop this many times, in this case 3. So we come back here, we say blink LED, we're passing in the number 3. We're going to make this, so this would be 3. This is our first parameter, which goes into our first parameter here. Our second parameter, red LED 1, tells us the pin. Our third parameter, 500 milliseconds, gives us our delay on. Fourth parameter gives us our fourth one, delay off. They're read in that same order. Okay, so we want to say turn red LED 1 on 3 times. We want it to be on for 500 milliseconds and then off for 500 milliseconds. Then we want to call the next piece of code. This will run, it goes through the method, the function here, and then this one will run. It'll go through the function, and then this one will run. When it's all done, because we're still in this loop, this forever loop, it'll repeat it over and over and over again. Okay, so again, blink red, this pin number 13 here, 500 milliseconds on and off 3 times. Yellow on 12, we're going to run it twice, 1000 on and 1000 off. Number 2 on pin 11, we're going to run this 5 times, 500 milliseconds on and off. And this runs exactly the same way that we did in our last code, but with much less code and much more efficiently. Now, if I want, I can very easily, if I want to change this to run 5 times instead of copying and pasting, I can just change that to 5, and now it works. If I want to change the delay, I can do that here. If I wanted to, I could have actually made a variable for delay on and delay off, and then pass that in instead of the number. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the board. We'll see that this runs exactly the same way, and I will see you later. Have an awesome day.